What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Argonaut League. Here for you guys tonight, I'm Lord Thief, and joined at the booth by Rainy Sticks, a brilliant caster who casts at University of Buffalo. And today we have for you guys a 6v6 showcase following the 6v6 experimentation that the Overwatch developers are currently conducting on Overwatch 2. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. It's going to be an awesome evening, packed, jam full of action. There are two now additional players on the field for these games, as opposed to in previous Overwatch 2 5v5 matchups. And Jay, I am really looking forward to this night's match.
I mean, as am I, of course. I had a little bit of experience playing 6v6 as I played high school esports. So I'm looking forward to seeing these Ryan Zarya comps that, of course, I'm sure we're going to see at least 1 point during this series and kind of see how they make adaptations and if there's any major support changes that happen.
Yeah. Oh boy. And actually, I'm glad that you mentioned changes, because there are sweeping ones that have been brought as part of this experimentation. I do want to come back eventually to kind of where you're getting at, Jay, which is kind of who's being run with whom. How are you running these characters? Who are you running to enable some of these heroes? Especially as we have, as part of the changes, a handful of characters actually kind of reverted back to their old Overwatch 1 selves.
Yeah, there was obviously the main three of Ryan, Roadhog, and Zarya, and then you had a ton of numbers changes on a lot of tanks, their health being traded for armor and such.
Hmm.
So I wonder if we're gonna see, super unique comps. Are we gonna see a Junker Queen Hazard sort of dive brawl comp, or are we gonna see
Oh,
these
goodness.
classical traditional Overwatch 1 double shield boring comps?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a really good question. Honestly, I feel like I haven't played too much of the 6v6 experiment. I'm a 6v6 enjoyer, like anyone. I mean, I just enjoy Overwatch, but I found the sweeping tank nerfs to be a little bit much, and so I found that that it was pretty unpredictable as far as what people were going to pick. But it's possible that we could predict what people are going to be playing on our first map of the evening. We're going to be heading into Lijiang Tower. That's that control style game mode, Jay. And here, I would imagine that the picks are actually pretty clear, right? On Lijiang Gardens, maybe you go for your Diva Winston as part of a six-man dive. Maybe that Junker Queen Hazard gets a little bit of play on Lijiang Night Market, right? Or Lijiang Control Center. Um, but uh, but yeah, I'm ready to be surprised, Jay, by what these teams pick. I don't think they're picking the real characters either, as they're currently assembling their characters.
Of course not. I mean, I would love to absolutely see a Junker Queen Mauga replace their supports and like just go full healing mode on each other. And like that's the thing with
Yeah.
these
Okay.
Overwatch 2 tanks that are now more designed to support themselves as well. Do you really opt for, traditional supports of like you need a Baptiste, or do you go something a little more unique and go like for a Kiriko who can deal high damage and just say, hey, you're going to act as a third DPS, right? You're not going to sit by the team. You're going to sit on an off angle, deal your damage, and we're going to let the tank and the main support heal each other up.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I think we're going to see that answered here in
Ooh, there is something interesting going on because we see the Ryan Czar, it's a very traditional comp, then we see the double dive, but we also see a Juno Lucio, which I think is going to be super interesting to the play because now you have two speeds, and while it was played a lot in Overwatch, especially in Calling All Heroes, it's so it's going to be not a lot of healing, right?
No, am I back? I think I'm back.
You are.
Oh, excellent. Oh my goodness, not a lot of healing and not a lot of time spent fighting in this either. Jay, I haven't actually. I was fixing my audio, so I didn't even get to see that first fight unfold.
I mean, it was just dive. Dive did its job, right? They went in, killed the targets they needed, fights won as soon as the support Baptiste falls down because Baptiste Lucio, all your healing is coming for this Baptiste. You don't have a Junker Queen, a Mauga, anything else for the sustain. It's all riding on the Baptiste.
Mm-hmm. I do like seeing this six-man composition. It's got the Juno spin on it, but I mean, some people call it six-man. Some it was like Neo Goats with the Reaper Zarya, and the Reaper Zarya being able, I'm sorry, Reaper Echo being able to dive in with these tanks, so it's absolutely huge. But the tanks are having to leap out, and the rest of the team follows suit. It's going to open up Dragon Slayer and Medical Coma to open up with these picks, and now the point is accessible to Grav-9 as they find their entry and start throwing abilities into the fray. But there's still more bodies to pick up the point. There's still more progress to attain here for Paradise Aegis, but with the loss of Persephone, things are going to get a little bit murky in terms of control. It looks like the point is going to flip over to Grav-9.
I did notice there, while you never want to see, your Winston diving out of the fight, the communication does look good, which in a 6v6 tournament for 3 years now, we've been playing this 5v5 mode. It's good that the communication is heard. Every comm is picked up and the team is playing together, which is going to be super essential as well when you do have a Lucio backline.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's part of what is making Paradise Aegis look so good. They're going to be ready to let it rip now. Hawk goes for the Death Blossom, and it is blossoming. And in the presence of a window, the rest of Paradise Aegis is undaunted. In fact, they push forward, they get their picks, and retake the objective.
That Blossom was absolutely massive. And I can't imagine the stress that the supports are feeling trying to ult track an additional ult now and trying to keep track of all these numbers in their head. Because you gotta be careful for this Blossom. All these ultis are super, super dangerous, and the fact that there's one more that you have to pay attention to is just all that much harder.
Oh yeah, you have the Echo duplicate is going to be one of those. You have to pay attention to them building that ultimate, and in the chaos of the fight, neither team is currently winning quite yet until Paradise Aegis decides to lock it in, eliminate Dragon Slayer, and then continue cleaning up from there. They're still sitting on these support ults too, Jay.
It is interesting that they're going to hold these ultis because, obviously, these are two incredibly fight-turning ultimates, but the issue is the points are already at 81%, so unless they plan to lose a fight, both of these ultimates are going to be thrown and pretty much do the same job of each other of win the fight.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. You do have ultimates that you're gonna have to use those against, right? Like the Deadeye or the Overclock. There's the Deadeye, and the Ray is gonna come down. Deadeye eaten by the Defense Matrix, and the rest of Paradise Aegis is gonna be able to move with their orbital beacon of light. Although Jafner is able to find a pick on the Sojourn on an off angle, the point isn't won here by Grav-9. This one's going to Paradise Aegis here for the first round as the celebratory primal signals the closing of round 1 Lijiang Tower. And you still had more ultimates?
But that's the thing, is 6v6 is this super chaotic, fast mode that every small decision matters so much more because there's so much relying on every decision you make. And these ults are just so crazy to remember how this mode used to be normal and how this amount of chaos and just confusion going on always was the standard at one point.
Yeah, it was, and honestly, what at times felt standard was was the agency that you get on by having just an extra body, right? Imagine all the support players right now who don't have that diva on the field to DM for them to peel, right? Because that used to be one of the responsibilities of like your off tank, right? And so now with that diva in your mid line, you're able to bounce back to your mid line. You've got that peel that lets you maybe go and do a little bit more damage, find some game-winning anti-nades, and I do like that we're going to be able to use those anti-nades here. Sabretooth on the Ana with Persephone on Mercy. Actually, we should all be familiar with Persephone's ever-attentive Mercy gameplay, and Budget is really looking good as a result. Finding some open picks in the fight, and also making sure that this is one that Paradise Aegis can feel good about winning.
And Grav-9 has completely 180'd and decided to go for this Hazard Ramatra dive brawl comp, which I think can work. It's just the issue of these Overwatch 1 comps that these teams have been playing for so long. It's like second nature to pick them back up. So you're gonna have to work a little extra hard to get these new comps to work.
Yeah. There are going to be things that the Hazard and Ramatra might open up for you, right? Like brawl openings, brawl windows. But look at this disruption style composition that Paradise is running. It's so sweaty.
I mean, it works. It's it's an Overwatch 1 comp. It's tested. It's been through all these years, and it works. And that's why they're going to run it. So it's so hard for Grav-9 to try to find an opening to go in against a disruption comp.
Yeah, because look, Dragon Slayer's got the arms out, is looking to look menacing and threatening, and is walking on air. And, you know, everyone scatters like rats, as I call it, whenever I use my ult, and no enemies are to be found. You do have some more picks that need to be secured in order for Paradise Aegis to really call this a win. Grav-9 actually is still in this. It's very much winnable, and as resources start to drain out of the bank, ultimates start to get used instead. A nano boost onto 2-bit is going to make things a little bit more winnable, but Jafner is able to trade for elimination onto one of those crucial and much happily obtained second tanks, but now 2-bit is in a spot of trouble, now taken out of the field, and at 55%, we're going to start seeing things turn maybe in favor of Grav-9. There's still ultimates here that Paradise Aegis can use, namely the Pulse Bomb from Hawk, but I don't know if this is the fight you want to use that in. You do.
I mean, you definitely can, right? This fight is going to build almost everybody on the field's ultimate, and so we're going to start seeing a ton of these come out.
Yeah, Dragon Slayer has the bow budget part of the fire rework. Oh, and the clutch. What do you call that? So rocket fuel resource being regenerated. That's amazing that Paradise holds that.
And I think it's all due to this Wrecking Ball, right? Because it's causing so many issues for people, and now it's not just the Wrecking Ball that's being annoying, but it's also the D.Va, it's also the Tracer, it's also the Pharah, and nothing feels like it can die thanks to Persephone's Mercy.
Yeah. Oh, and whips out the Glock right at the end. I wish we'd gotten a little bit more time in the game so that we could have seen that, but at least a little bit of the Mercy glocking is much appreciated. Hey, Paradise Aegis looks fantastic in this first opening map of this matchup. But Grav-9 still with a really good chance to come back. Had some really bright moments, and I really like the cooking that they have with their compositions. Jay, this is going to be a first 2-3 best of 5 series. So there is always the chance that we only see 3 maps. That mythical 4th and 5th map end up just barely evading us. But honestly, I think any 6v6 is going to be much appreciated at this point here on Hyperion Co.
Absolutely. And I'm curious on what the next map pick is going to be, right? Do you go for an Overwatch 1 map where these comps have been played for years? And, you know, you go to a King's Row, you play a Ryan Zarya, you play a D.Va Winston dive, something like that. Or do you go for a new map? Do you go for a Flashpoint, you know, and just throw everything out the window that we've known about Overwatch and just try to go for these new comps? Like, I loved the Hazard look there. I think the issue was the Disruption comp was just too much to deal with.
Yeah, it's too much to deal with, and also too far away, right? And on a sprawling map like Lijiang Night Market, Day Market, it was at that point actually. You know, it can be really tough to walk down those targets. So, you know, honestly, maybe the angle is moving into one of the Overwatch 2 maps, right? And moving into one of those maps that helps you skirmish it out instead of fight it out a little bit more, right? Now, I could see that also still being advantageous to Paradise Aegis' style, which is a very like some of us are in, some of us are out, and the murder, mayhem, chaos happening the entire time. But I could also see in a world where if Grav-9 has an environment that they can just control a little bit easier, they end up looking really strong against Paradise.
And I think it's important to note as well, there are design changes between Overwatch 1 characters and Overwatch 2 characters, and that applies to the maps as well. We are going to go to Junkertown, which Overwatch 1 map, so though it has been reworked in Overwatch 2, it does still have these like super long sight lines where, you know, the double hit scan is favored. So are we going to see, you know, the Hazard comp again, which might struggle on this map? Or are we going to see an Overwatch 1 double shield, which I would absolutely hate to see?
Or would that be like a Sigma Reinhardt, Sigma Rom, Sigma Monkey? You know, I guess honestly, at one point, Maga is in a double shield comp. I guess it's only for ultimate exchanges, but that's kind of funny, Jay. How I was like, you know, yeah, maybe if Grav-9, you know, can kind of like shrink their environment down a little bit more. No, we're going the total opposite direction. It's expansive environments now, at least for the sprawling first objective. And I don't think the thing is. I don't think that makes me uncomfortable, at least for Grav-9. I think that I actually remember Jaffner. It's very vague, but I know that Grav-9 has some really talented hit scan players. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Widow come out from either side, especially from Hawk. Or even some like nice Widow matchup characters like like the Sojourn or the Ashe. I don't expect Ashe to emerge like at any point actually, but Sojourn is actually like I think she's pretty playable in 6v6.
I definitely think it's one of the hit scans you could swap out, go for that soldier angle, because I think allowing your players to have the most agency they can alone is such a crucial part, because obviously these comms are not at the level of original 6v6. So I think letting everybody do their own thing and letting them create their own, plays and moments, giving them that freedom to say, hey, we're all playing as a team, but I trust you enough that you're going to get something done if you go on an off angle and try to do it, right? I think that could be the key to winning these games.
Well, and I think that that's a really nice way of expressing, Overwatch 1 gameplay style I'm sorry, Overwatch 2 gameplay style in the context of like an Overwatch 1 format, right? That the game, I would say very much nowadays boils down to, 5 people doing their own thing until the time to do one thing together it comes up, right? And that's very Overwatch 2 to me, where Overwatch 1 was like, working really hard as a team, fighting out those long wars of attrition. You remember Double Shield, you remember Goats, healing uptime, damage mitigation uptime, all of it. You're just fighting kind of endless wars. And so I kind of like having to strike that balance. I like that prospect is, Paradise Aegis and Grav-9, they both still have to have players who all are going to be able to do their own thing, but when you have the opportunity to capitalize on the fact that you have a second tank, like you take that opportunity. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to see that. I think you've probably cast or cursed something into existence here, Jay. So now it's just a matter of time until we get to see what kinds of ideas these players have with the comps that they want to run.
Oh, I'm absolutely sure they're going to not play double hit scan, double marksman. They're going to run some super crazy close range comp. We're going to see Hawk on the Reaper again. Not that I'd mind that, because it did look very good on Li Jiang. I think you kind of have to abide to the tradition that was set in Overwatch 1 and the precedent that you have to go with these traditional style comps, which there's the Sigma. We got part of it down.
Oh my goodness, it's the Sigma Wrecking Ball composition. One to hold it down and one to go cause mayhem off in one corner of the map. I forgot that people ran that comp, not gonna lie. When you were asking me about compositions like Overwatch 1 comps earlier, I was like, I just hadn't thought about Ball Sigma. But that was also pretty popular back in the day.
It was, and seeing all these comps being played kind of gives me nostalgia, because I was a tank player back then, and I was, forced on that Sigma duty, because Overwatch 1 was not Overwatch 1 without Sigma as some part of the comp.
Yeah, that's actually such. Well, yeah, you're gonna get the daily dose of Sigma from DQ Red here. Gonna be walking out on the attacking side. Paradise Aegis and Grav-9 have flip sides, by the way. So Paradise Aegis now the red team, gonna be starting off with their attack, and based on how well Li Jiang Tower had gone, I'd say they got a little bit of momentum that they can use to make this first objective, hopefully not too complicated.
I mean, it looks like they're abiding to that philosophy of letting everybody do their own thing. All their members do. Oh, I might have just perfectly cast or cursed that. The Wrecking Ball going to be the first to fall down. The D.Va now in trouble as well.
Yeah, and it's not even so much that, you lose one and things start to fall apart at the seams there, right? Because you do have options when you lose someone. You can change, shift around your formation, move your chess pieces around a little bit, or take a new angle, make a trade, use an ultimate. Here, that isn't quite an option for Grav-9. They're going to be sent on the back foot by the aggression and the angles, honestly, maintained by Paradise Aegis. They all turn around there to melt Dragon Slayer after a really not well-casted rock from DQ Red.
And it may just be old man shake stick at the sky, right? That I'm sitting here talking about Overwatch 1 comps, but this Overwatch 2 comp with reworked Sombra, you have the new Wrecking Ball. It just looks so dominant on this point.
Pressure, pressure, pressure. And Hawk is delivering on that. Kills onto both supports with the help, a little bit of assistance from Tubin, and really expertly cast Pulse Bomb there onto Ding Ding, playing for their lives, unable to make it work. And in the end, Grav-9 will have to hold the second objective here for as long as they can.
Which, it looks like an impossible feat. Hawk getting 2 of them on the first objective, first point, and getting that Pulse Bomb within the first, 30 seconds, it felt like.
Yeah, that was a really quickly generated pulse. Jaffer is already on these Widow sites, though, and other ultimates are coming in. I think 2-Bit is looking for just one more pile drive before they're going to be able to go for the minefield.
Or you can just sit there, shoot at the Widowmaker on the angle, mark her, and ping her, which is so vital to teams' comms now that you were able to ping.
Oh my goodness, you're right. Like, what a luxury to know that all of Grav-9 is sitting there in the stairwell, waiting to burst out and snap budget right back into spawn. And so probably a little bit of time here for Grav-9, but Paradise Aegis still on a really aggressive tear through the map, still with ultimates in their back pocket to make this stretch work, still with a means by which they can win this, and a nice opening there on the Squanchy leads into the Flux. You're licking Ding Ding as well, so Jake, I mean, is this it for Grav-9?
It looks like it. The Ana falls and they're going to rally in response, but how much can this do when there's a counter rally as well?
Yeah, Jaffner's going to like do their best to survive, but they, it's not like the Widow sides are going to save you here. And this should be where the second checkpoint gets achieved by Paradise Aegis. Grav-9 could muster a touch here. I don't think it'd be advisable, but they got the EMP in case they wanted to.
I do love this EMP. It looks crucial for this next fight in case they decide to minefield EMP at anything like that. Throw it, which is the perfect time now. It is going to get EMP'd.
It also EMPs Tubit's minefield and makes the arena a little less hostile to the rest of Grav-9, but the rest of Grav-9 not going to even quite make it to the arena that they want to brawl on. So die and get out angle resets the team, and now we walk into the harrowing third point of Junkertown, which is the most holdable objective here for Grav-9.
It feels like an impossible feat at this point because you don't have that DPS ulti, you have sights, you have minefield, which is going to clear Aegis off for a couple of seconds, but ultimately, what is your hold here? What do you have going for you that's your win con?
Well, an opening pick on a Hawk is definitely a good place to start. And the Widow side's, really helpful for ousting their positioning. But then you have to clear off high ground. There's a minefield on the objective. It's going to help get DQ pretty critically low. But they get so full on the overhealth and the Transcendence. Sabretooth as well being able to trade in the process. And now things are starting to turn one way and then the other. Grav-9 maintaining a defensive advantage over this objective. But they're starting to lose it in the ultimate phase, especially as you see Budget ramping up to this EMP. Might not be able to pull the trigger quite yet, as Grav-9 does find their stabilization. But Budget is talking about how they're going to use the EMP in the next fight.
I mean, that's such a hallmark of 6v6, is this back and forth pull of just fights and how it all works. And Budget needing to get out here. New Sombra change is not helping her, can't go invisible forever.
No, but you're right. It's very the in and out style, right? That we look at like Watchpoint Gibraltar for. We're seeing that, and it's not just like a map thing, right? It's very much an Overwatch 6v6. Look, another fight breaking out. You've got the EMP in play. Paradise Aegis on full aggressive mode here, still with the Flux in the bank to clear the objective when it finally starts rolling into that point. But Grav-9 has one last chance to prevent that.
The communication from Paradise just looks so beautiful, though. I mean, you see that Wrecking Ball as soon as the pile driver hits. The EMP comes out, and the team is just collapsing on this.
Yeah, but you can't quite lock down this Tracer until you use the Flux. You get the Brig as well, and DQ Red is really helping to make this point presence for Paradise Aegis one that is indomitable. Now, they do end up falling critically low in the process. 2-Bit lets a rip on the minefields, and the Deadeye is unfortunately canceled there by the rally. Sabretooth definitely thanking Aaron Keller for those Overwatch 2 Brig buffs. Although I guess it wouldn't have made a single bit of difference if we're playing on the Overwatch 1 build. Brig shield bashes in the neutral and gets a stun, which is kind of crazy to think about. How much more CC there was in the game. That's part of it. I think that's part of how or what makes Overwatch a little bit better, Jay, is just the fact that not every character has a way to stop you from moving the way you want.
It is true, Cass did lose the stun, does still have the hinder, but it's interesting to note how different these two teams are playing. And while just not being able to hear their comms, we can still see in the philosophy, the way they're playing, Paradise Aegis is going and allowing their players, again, to do their own thing and just collapsing when it's necessary, right? The point was getting 3 meters away, and they all focused on the targets. They said, hey, everybody's got to get off the point. But in these longer sites, this first point, they were all just kind of doing their own thing on their own off angles, but still helping each other and playing as a team while doing that.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that, like, when it's happening to you, you're like, oh my goodness, like, all 5 of them turn around just for me. But also think about how, how kind of like, how luxurious it was for DQ for Dragon Slayer to just kind of like roll into them. You've got a rock in your pocket, let her rip on the accretion, find the stun, and you just call out. You're like, hey, I'm gonna rock ball, turn around, deal with him, and then we can move on. And that's what you've got. You're able to play off of not necessarily mistakes, but you're able to play off the playstyles of your opponent. Is that something? Is that an option that you have in 6v6 over 5v5?
It might be, but that Reinhardt was just shredded down, by the way. I don't know what damage nerfs they did, but it wasn't enough.
Not nearly enough. Paradise Aegis is going to maintain a pretty strong hold here at this first objective so far.
Ramattra is an interesting pick as well, because we were talking about these long sight lines. Ramattra doesn't have access to these high grounds that the defensive team wants to play on.
And I don't mind the Zarya, right? To like, because you can get bubble, help the Ramattra cross distance. You also don't have to absorb as much of the aggression on the Zarya, since you have the Ram who can bring out the arms, but the arms also have to be used across the distance here. But you've got the speed ring here on the high ground, and your Ram ends up on the objective anyways. A pylon to break and a shield to destroy, but this is already past the point you have the resources by which to do that. For Grav-9, it's going to be a reset ankle and find a new win condition.
You mentioned the Zarya. I can't imagine trying to play Zarya. 3 years ago, you were able to bubble only yourself and your teammate. Then you get to bubble yourself twice, and now it's back to that. I can't imagine trying to manage these cooldowns anymore in your head, because you see how aggressive they're playing, but the issue is you don't have double bubble to protect yourself anymore.
That's a really nice bubble into a right click, though, as well as some pressure from the rest of Grav-9, but also I kind of agree with you. I see your point. I like selfish bubbling as Zarya. That's how I play the game. I don't play the game like Jafner is, but that's because I'm not a pro gamer who's willing to take serious risks that will have big payoffs. Now, you get a little bit of help from Medical Coma on the pick with Hawk, but I really like the energy of Jafner. This is the kind of aggression that I think is really working for Paradise Aegis, and to see Grav-9 use a little bit of it, or lean into that, I think is a big deal.
I mean, you notice this Widow's positioning is just in the front lines, essentially. Hiding, not hiding, but sitting out in the open and just being like, yeah, try to peek me and see what happens. There's a payoff there. The Sombra invisibility allows the Sombra player budget to get the jump on her there, but it's still crazy to see how different these players are playing with just one extra person on the field.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that individualism as well, right? But then there's also some of that team play, right? Ding Ding making sure that they aren't increasing the stagger, right? That they catch the respawn of the rest of the team here. Although I don't think Blade respawn made it into 6v6. Maybe it did. I can't recall. In any case, you group up into a Sunstrike here, delivered by Sabertooth, and the fight effectively ends. At the very least, you got one more ult that you got out of them, if you are Grav-9.
And on the side of Grav-9, you don't have any defense to that. You don't have a beat drop. You don't have your Ray. Even if you do have your Ray, you have to group together to actually get use out of it. And you can't really do that in a Sunstrike, so it was pretty much a free ultimate.
Yeah, that's true. I hear the Flux going off. Looks like it does find a target. Deadeye from the top ropes. You gotta love to see it. Nice intuition from Medical Coma. And there's a nano tethered onto it as well. So the damage dealt afterwards is pretty meaningful. Look at that, a third of the way already to that next Deadeye.
The grab, though, is what I have to be focusing on here, because look at this aggressive positioning and just grabbing the entire backline, forcing out that Trank.
Yeah, it's going to move on to the objective with the Trank, and is there the energy that Dragon Slayer needs to not only sustain on the point, but also get the kills on the objective? Not quite, but the rest of Grav-9 might be able to make something happen with a little bit of help from the Ramattra ultimate, as well as some stagger touches onto the point. Now you only have a Wrecking Ball to clear if you are Grav-9 to capture this first objective. And really, you know, for the escort game mode, this is why I think Grav-9 is also making some really smart calls with their map picks. On the escort game mode, you don't have to worry about the time bank. You know, you just have to capture the objectives. That's it. That's all that matters.
Sure, and I think also it kind of makes sense for their comps, because you don't want to be fighting over the central point. I think allowing everybody to do their own thing, again, I'm going to keep hitting on this issue and using the exact same wording. I think it's so important for players to be able to take their own agency and do what they want, and then just group together for these moments where they're like, oh, somebody's diving me, I need help, I need a support here, you know what I mean? I think that's the key to winning this mode.
Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, I agree with you, but there right now we just get to see Grav-9 kind of doing things together. You've got the slow on the Wrecking Ball, buying space for the Widow, taking the cheeky off angle to find the shots on the D.Va that you need to make sure that she can't eat the damage to the rest of your deeps are going to deal, or your tanks. So that was really nicely played from Grav-9, and that was on the back of like a lot of what I felt at the time, or from this POV, was team play.
And I couldn't imagine trying to play this and having to deal with all the status effects. Of course, they removed a lot of the hard CC, but you still do have a lot of replacement soft CC to deal with as well.
Oh, like the accretion there, delivered onto Medical Coma to cancel the Dead Eye, and now there are more picks rolling through favorably for Paradise Aegis, who clean up the objective and are going to force a reset out of Grav-9. There were some ultimates spent from Grav-9 there as well, but I don't think it was the most meaningful ones.
60 seconds on the clock does not sound good, right? Because you have the nano, but whoa, whoa, that is a crazy display of, I would say, competitiveness toward it nicely there from Hawk. But again, for the side of Grav-9, you only have this nano, and there's 30 seconds to build every ult you need to win this fight. You're gonna walk into a minefield, you're gonna walk into EMP, you're gonna walk into Pulse Bomb, you're gonna walk into Trank. How do they overcome this ult diff?
Quite possibly just with an EMP, prevent them from ulting in the first place, but it's actually a minefield that emerges after Squanchy gets the nano. 2-Bit really helping to cut down that point presence that they were capable of, and there's the EMP rolling in, hits 2, I think, including one of the supports. Ding still able to get a strike back on a 2-Bit, and the rest of Grav-9 is starting to struggle a little bit. Until they're cleared, and you do see Paradise Aegis taking the second map.
A beautiful win by them, too. It looked very, very strong from them. On that attack, they had so much time in the bank, and it just looked like this team is meshing together well and is doing what I think is the most important thing, and that is playing as a team as well. Because, I mean, the way they are working together to just find targets and find picks and create space for each other is so vital.
I agree. It's a lot of fun to see, especially the tanks interacting with each other, and that support and that DPS interacting with that extra tank, right? Not only in terms of how the team is playing with itself, right? Everyone doing their own thing until you've got to do one thing together, like you mentioned, Jay. But also how they're interacting with each other. Who now has to deal with the Wrecking Ball, because someone also is going to have to deal with the D.Va. And if your Wrecking Ball is diving the Widow, right, then who is sustaining him? Is it the D.Va who's going to go and peel? Is it the Brig who's going to turn around? So I feel like you've got a lot of options that emerge out of this. We're getting to a nice glimpse into some of them. But I suspect, Jade, that there's still more in the sleeves of these players that we could probably get exposed to.
I'm still waiting for just this full damage comp to come out where you have Wrecking Ball, D.Va, you have Tracer, you have Widowmaker, you have Kiriko, you have Yachty, and all of them are just sitting there pressing left click, and you kind of have to work your way through which one's the most important one to get off the field, because I feel like something like that could work just because the communication is so vital in 6v6 already, and then, with all these different distractions and targets and all of them being able to deal damage, I feel like a comp like that, which is just disruption, but on a meta level, would work.
Disruption. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that you mentioned kind of like the heal spam or the damage mit spam that some of these comps would now be capable of, especially when you're factoring in heroes that have that blocking mechanic, right? Ramatra being able to, I think, mitigate like up to 90% of the damage, incoming damage. Obviously, Hazard with his ability, I think that one's 75% damage mitigation. But I do feel like one of the differences between Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2 is actually that healing uptime isn't as egregious as it used to be. So I think even to that end, you have some options, but I still think that you're absolutely correct that when it comes to the 6v6 matchup, right, 5v5, you are a little bit less restricted, right, when it comes to which angles you're working, how much of an off angle, how much of a flank are you able to operate? Where in 6v6, I'll have to worry about a D.Va being kind of on the prowl for me. 5v5, I can really kind of be wherever I want. And I think that's I'm hoping that we get to see even more of that heading into this third map, is even more of these players being able to do what they want because they have that extra tank, not because there is one less tank on the field. I mean, that's what the 6v6ers want, I think, Jay, is to, definitive proof that 6v6 is better.
What the 6v6ers also want is Hanamura being picked for our potential last map. And man, do I see this map icon and I just get flashbacks of running Sigil
Oh my
playing
goodness.
defense, playing these super like congested angles where all 12 people on the field are sitting in top high ground on the second point, just spamming damage at each other, hoping that one of them breaks the shield. And I can't imagine going back to
Oh,
this map after playing 5v5 for so long.
yeah, actually. Well, and I know that a lot of people liked playing the 2CP mode in 5v5. I actually fall into that camp. I felt like 5v5 was a buff to 2CP. You've got less players to like stuff these chokes, right? And now you're no longer waiting on that, War of Attrition shield break, or for like your Reinhardt player, who you really don't want on Reinhardt, by the way, in Overwatch 1, because he's just always been bad. But he finally builds that shatter that you can use to break through that first gate on Hanamura. I always felt like 5v5 made those entryways a little more accessible. So I guess now we're to the opposite end of that question, Jay, where it's like, well, now does having that extra tank actually make the game mode a little less playable?
I think it definitely makes it more congested.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
these maps are so tiny, and then you have these Overwatch 2 tanks, which command so much space, right? You can't play within 30 meters of hazard without having to worry about getting one shot somehow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And think about it now, too. Hanamura has this oppressive high ground that before really a ton of tanks couldn't reach, and they just kind of had to sit there and face tank all the damage. Now you have people like Hazard who can just jump up all the way up there, and I wonder if that high ground's going to be as oppressive as it used to be.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, because now you do have Hazard, who has wall climb. You also have Kiriko, who can wall climb. There's dozens of other heroes who have verticality built into their kits. I think Sojourn could probably make that slide from outside of the gate of Hanamura, right up onto that little ledge that we used to see the Widows and Hanzos all peek and poke from. So yeah, you're totally right. Even outside of the format change, right? You have new heroes who can interact with the game and the maps in new ways. So more options. And Overwatch, I feel like one thing we can all agree on, like 5v5, 6v6, whatever. I feel like one thing we can always agree on is like Overwatch is a good game when you have more options. When the game gives you more ways to do the things you want.
I would agree, but I'd slightly change that point to Overwatch is a good game when I'm winning it, and Overwatch is a bad game when I'm losing it.
Wait,
It does also
so
feel like a sin to see Reinhardt Mythic Hammer and skin on an Overwatch 1 map. It just kind of makes me feel sick to my stomach to be like, oh wow, we're really back here.
Yeah, actually. We could have had this all along, and oh boy, all along it was the Symmetra TP strat. And even though budget goes down, the parting gift that they leave for the rest of the team is more than operable. Doesn't quite score the tick here yet for Paradise Aegis, but it's a bold enough strategy to at least shake up the defenses of Grav-9. It's going to keep them a little bit more on edge in the coming attacks.
Man, I saw the Sim Mei, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. I didn't, like... Neuron activation when I saw that TP Mei wall cut off, and I'm just like, oh man, we're back.
Yeah, right back in the throes of Overwatch 1 and Hanamura. Sabertooth is, I think, like off stage winning their matchups and is actually helping to clear open a little of the space. They might give their life for the cause now, but at least for now, the rest of Grav-9 might be able to make something work with it. 2-Bit does find Squanchy, and even though the rest of Paradise Aegis is looking to, Grav-9 is looking to fan out and deal with their matchups, they're still ultimately being forced off the point.
Ryan has 2 fire strikes. And can cancel his pin. That's very interesting, because my note said something completely different. But, I mean, this TP is so lethal. Everybody who's played Overwatch 1 knows how gross this is to deal with, and how just oppressive it can be when the team blinks from one side of the map to the other. And with 6 people, too, you can't just shred through it, because all of them are sitting there blocking it somehow.
Yeah. There's a TP now. I think it gets people to the high ground, but and it is the high ground you want to clear, right? Medical coma, ding ding, and as well. Now coming from spawn, you have to deal with the Ashen and Ramatra. Squanchy's going to charge onto the objective. It's a bold play to make, but it's all in stall. And now you have a Blizzard that you're walking into. Things totally inoperable here for Grav-9, but they're still throwing everything they have at the objective. You gotta love to see it, and I mean, that is what we used to see. I mean, almost, what, like 5 years straight for Overwatch 1 was those last touch stalls for Hanamura.
Yup, because the spawn doors are so close, you can sit there and pretty much infinitely touch until there's an ultimate that forces you to not be able to anymore. And speaking of the ultimates, how many weren't built that game just because of how fast it was? How the TP allowed them to go straight in, and some people literally couldn't deal damage or deal enough damage, significant damage, to build their ultimates.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, those distance crossing tools are so undisputably important in Overwatch 1. Because yeah, you have an extra tank to fight through, unless you just TP. Right? Like, that's actually all that you have to do, is just TP right onto the objective. So big kudos to Paradise Aegis for bringing out that strat that I had forgotten about as well. Like you mentioned, neuron activation. As soon as I saw the wall go up.
Now, if these team comps hold as they are right now, because sometimes people do walk all the way back to spawn change and then they're late to the initial fight, we are seeing in Roadhog, which Overwatch 2 form, by the way, he does have his pig pen, which means his whole, all of his kit is the Overwatch 2 version. As well as we're going to see, I believe, what is going to be another TP strat. So, what are the odds that Roadhog just grabs one person through the Ryan shield somehow magically and just gets that pick immediately?
Pretty high. Pretty high. I'd say they're also pretty high for budget to get some really nice disruption early on. Look, they're already a third of the way to that ultimate, with just a little bit of help from Persephone and some nicely timed rockets.
We see the TP happening, Ryan shield blocking off the damage instead of the May wall, though.
Yeah, and Jafner ends up going down, which bodes pretty poorly here for Grav-9, but they have gotten to take a progress out of this attacking phase so far. So, even despite the nutty hooks, you are still going to have to reset with the rest of your team, and Paradise Aegis does get a successful defense after yielding a little bit.
I think 2-Bit's at 100% hook accuracy, by the way. I don't think
Probably.
this player has missed the hook, even though that hook there onto the Genji was one of the most egregious ones I've ever seen.
Yeah, a little bit. We'll have to see Squatchy and how they help deal with the Roadhog on the D.Va defense matrix still being absolutely busted, even if it is in a slightly nerfed state. You do have the ball rolling in as well. Dragon Slayer takes so much heat for it, though. And then the Mega gets yoinked! Oh, that's so toxic!
Hawk has been my front runner for MVP this entire series, and is just proving why. That was a crazy play.
That was so rude. That was actually one of the rudest things I've ever seen in my life.
I mean,
but it's working.
What's even ruder, though, is touching the spawn doors, which Hawk is doing right now on this Genji.
Yeah, ooh, almost gets punished for it by the Widow. I like Jafner swapping on this pick. Given a little bit of range against this Roadhog, I cannot imagine it's going to be a bad thing. And Astra's going to move on from the Lucian to the Zen, so you're adding lethality to that range.
And I mean, it's immediately going to prove its value, right? The Roadhog does fall because of the 2 headshots that Schaffner did hit. The barrage, though, the Farmer's going to prove its value as well. Budget there getting 3.
Yep, really nice stuff from Budget, really capitalizing just on the fact that there's a lot of fights happening in a couple of different places, but now they're all going to get resolved. Grav-9 sent back to spawn, resets.
I'm just so amazed that we're seeing these Overwatch 1 comps actually being played again. It's nostalgia, right? And what's even more nostalgia is the Dragon Blade that's going to come out here, and it's going to be a Nano Blade as well, I see it.
Yeah, but is it going to be a 6K like we used to? Well, you know, against a Ball D.Va, probably going to be a little bit hard. But you see Paradise Aegis just looking to line up for it. Nano goes out, Blade is drawn from its sheath, and targets given chase. 1-2 picks, and Jafner manages to find that final blow onto Hawk. Really nice stuff from the Widowmaker, but excellent opening from Genji to make sure that Paradise Aegis stays stable around this objective.
Hawk finding 2 again is so crazy because Genji, obviously, one of the weirdest characters in Overwatch, and is debated about whether or not he's good, and that depends on if you play him or not. And just being able to find 2 into this team comp, which is so tanky, by the way, was really impressive to me.
I'm surprised, honestly, to see Genji as still as effective as he is right now. He's really strong in Overwatch 2, and even in 6v6, not only is he still popular, he's actually still pretty viable. Jaffner gets a really nice pick on a Sabertooth that's going to weaken the defenses of Paradise Aegis, but that's not to say that Grav-9 has the opening that they want. They're still fighting, kind of losing fights on a couple of different fronts. What you really want to see from them here is yet another reset. One last push through the choke. You've got the blade, you've got the transcendence, and you've got the bomb. Something to make work with here in the interest of just getting one more tick. Well, you need two, but like start with one.
And we had mentioned it before, this opening gate is just so crazy oppressive to try to get through, and without the TP, it's so much harder. Beautiful shield, by the way, fellow Sigma player. That was a great time shield.
That might have been a luckily timed shield there, and there's a really good grasp, though. Only mitigates a little bit of damage, and the rest of Grav-9 are going to look to overwhelm this objective. Against all odds, they are getting that one tick. We're starting with one and going from there, and you do almost get that last tick, which are being last-second touches from Hawk. He's got Persephone at his heel as well, which just makes him less killable, and yeah, we're going to see that. Hawk doesn't even go down before the point gets finally... I'm sorry. Yeah, Hawk doesn't go down until after the point finally gets captured.
And I mean, that's another trademark of Overwatch 1 to me, is just how strong Mercy is. And Grav-9 eventually figured it out there, targeting the Mercy and getting her out before they could get the Genji. But I am loving what we're seeing from both sides, which is not traditional comps you'd play on this map, but they're working because that's just how this game is now. Overwatch 2 changed so much things that these comps, honestly, probably are the meta. I haven't played much 6v6, but I do imagine that these are strong.
Yeah, actually, I know that the Roadhog is, at least in the couple of games that I played, more than a couple. Roadhog ended up being a pretty popular pick, mostly because, or partially because people also liked him having his 10-meter shot back. And there's a lot more range than that involved on this second point defense. With Sabertooth going down, yet another opening for Grav-9 to take advantage of. Dragon Slayer is going to pop off, getting two on the high ground and then rolling onto point. Still has to be confronted with a Hog and a Sigma. That's a lot of CC and a lot of damage coming from Junkrat, who is still in the spawn, but so close to minefields and a potential victory here on this third point. With a little bit more patience from the rest of Grav-9 and minefield on the field, things might finally be winnable, but there's still picks that have to roll through, and a blade that has to be lived, and living is not part of the plan anymore, as Grav-9 is going to be sent back to spawn. But after a fight so well executed amidst the tough fights that they had to play so far.
And I mean, I noticed a couple things there. Number one, Dragon Slayer knows how to play ball, because that was really good ramp tech that they just did there. Two, Hawk again with the blade is just finding so many people despite the team comp being so squishy that they're running into. And also that this Roadhog, I mean, perfectly timed. I can't emphasize how perfectly that hook was timed to pull the Diva away from getting Persephone and essentially prolonging the fight for what felt like 3 more minutes.
Yeah. And now we've only got 1 minute remaining. You do have the Widow sights up that, helping you to know where the Mercy Junkrat are, but again, crossing the distance onto them is a little bit more complicated, and that is a tough angle to work with. Astro's the one with the angles here, finds Tubit out, and that means the point presence here for Paradise Aegis is going to be weakened. It's going to open up Squanchy to get in there, but you also have to make sure that Squanchy's going to be able to live. They are 1v1ing, I think, and now a 1v1 between the Tyre and Astra. I'll give you a hint about who gets to win that one. It's the Ultimate, and Ultimates are winning on the side of DQ Red. Going for a little bit of a 360 rock. I think that we're looking for Jaffner here on the low ground. Now drops to dispatch that threat, and now just has to continue holding this objective. 18 seconds for Dragon Slayer to see about one last ditch touch.
And I mean, of course, it has. They have touch, right? Wrecking Ball is going to get there. And then, of course, you have the Genji, you have the Soldier 76, you have Deepa. Everybody's going to get their touch in. But the question is, can they do it in a nice enough time frame where it doesn't feel like staggered 1-by-1 touches and they get to use some of these ultimates that they have available, like the Nano?
Oh, the blade comes out as well, and it does get one. There's one more to get. Budget now down, and there's 4 in the feed for Grav-9, which means they do get that. Ooh, they do get that objective completion. Okay, now the odds are like so massively stacked against them, though, Jay.
Absolutely. 5 minutes in the time bank versus 1 is going to be absurdly different, especially when we did see them do the TP strat and capture the first point within the first 30 seconds of the game.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness, no, because they don't even get a minute. Oh my goodness, I forgot about this mode.
Oh wow.
Yep. I had to play it. You can only draw at this point if you're Grav-9.
Which does mean we get a 4th map, I believe, right? Unless we're doing 1-1 scoring. So
as long as Grav-9 draws, because Paradise Aegis, I think, only needs to capture 1 tick. And then after that, that's their 3rd map point.
which, keep in mind, that is a 5-minute defense on 2CP, which feels impossible just saying it. And having played this before, it is impossible because you need so much to go right for you. You need the ultimate economy to be perfect and the communications to be perfect, which in a mode where you're playing in a show match where you haven't, allegedly, probably haven't scrimped, is going to be insane. And we're going to see the Lifeweaver, which I do like, but it
I
opens up
really
a couple
like
questions
Lifeweaver.
on how you're going to play this high ground, because now you can access it from the attacker's side, right? You can get to this high ground that is so powerful with just the pedal.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, when Lifeweaver first came out, and I was like, "Ooh, this character might be like strong and interesting." You know, honestly, these 2CP maps and helping, he didn't end up being strong or interesting. You know, Lifeweaver to help make some of these distances a little easier to cross might be helpful. And you know, it's not the Lifeweaver that's working here quite yet. Fight ensues, and so far it's Grav-9 holding pretty strong here. A couple more stragglers that they got to eliminate, and after that, maybe we get to see Persephone really shine in another way.
I'm absolutely sure it's going to be strong, because once you get the Tree of Life on this super tight, close point, it's going to get value no matter where you put it, no matter who's in it. And I also just want to see this, all of Grav-9 go at once, or all of Paradise Aegis go at once, because it looked like there they got a little staggered out, and then one person fell, and then everybody fell. So I want to see them go all at once with this team play.
Yeah, oh, there it is, all at once in the little building. A miss on the pin, but you do get a pick on the Sabertooth, and now trades on both sides mean that, well, it could go either way at this point. Cocoma's going to get forced off the objective. I like Paradise's Aegis' aggression here, but it is going to put Persephone a little bit of a risk. Jaffner eventually goes down, and that's an opening for Paradise Aegis to amp it up on the aggression, but they're slightly punished for it. 2-bit really suffering on the point. In fact, both sides kind of draining resources here, and eventually draining people as well.
I mean, it's so vital that the Sombra came here just in time, because she canceled a lot of abilities. And specifically, it's pressuring the ball off, and that's it. There we go. Paradise Aegis taking the third map and winning the 6v6 Invitational.
Yeah. Really, really nice stuff from Paradise. And honestly, you know, not surprising to see a team like Paradise like really get to shine here. Always been a really strong org, and that's not to hint that the Grav-9 is anything different. Both of them, I think, veteran veteran organizations in the Argonaut League. From all the way back from the Hyperion Cup, Hyperion Invitational. Shoutouts to both teams for joining us this evening for the 6v6 show match. Jay, we got to see a couple of blasts from the past, but also some new spins. What was one of your favorite moments from any of the three maps?
I mean, it has to be this disruption comp coming back. I also think, honorable mention, by the way, is the Sim TP, because I had completely blocked that out of my memory as a strat that actually works, because the amount of times teams in high school would try to do it against us, and we're just like, okay, we know this strategy exists, right? But I think the disruption comp just showed off the strength of the 6v6 mode, and showed off how strong teams can be, even without, scrimming or really preparing this mode. Everything just looked so natural and like second nature, and I was very happy to get to cast this event.
Yeah, it was an absolute blast. It's not quite over yet. On the other side of a very short break, we'll be bringing you guys a brief interview with one of the players from Paradise Aegis. So hang tight, don't go anywhere, because neither are we. We'll be right back here in a minute. welcome back from the break, everyone. Here for you guys, we have brought before you none other than Sabretooth of Paradise Aegis, the support player, Lucio aficionado of the team that got to win all three maps this evening. Sabretooth, thank you for joining us. Did you have fun, and how much louder is it with an additional tank player?
Uh, well, thank you for having us. It was a great time. With the tank player, it's a little different than 5v5. Obviously, getting used to the extra voice and extra "I need healing." But besides that, it kind of brought back some good nostalgia.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that good nostalgia. Was it just having that sixth player, right? Because that's I understand important for a lot of players, right? It's just one more friend that I can have on the field with me, right? Or is it more game specific, right? Hero matchup or a character interaction that maybe you missed?
Right. I mean, for me, as a support player, it was just very. It's kind of 5v5. It's easier to keep up with heals, but it felt a lot more challenging with six. With 6v6 extra tank. It felt fun. It's just overall just so much nostalgia to begin with. So it's fun. I like the extra challenges of like extra people diving in more and more people on the team. I enjoyed a lot playing more friends and more teammates. Obviously, how to get another person to be a tank, so that's always fun.
Seems like you captured all the different essences of what makes having that 2-2-2 format so great.
And diving a little bit more into the nostalgia, was there any specific comps or anything you were super like, I want to play this, I want to run this? Because we did see the Sim TP, which brought back a lot of memories for me. And I was kind of curious, were there any comps that you went into this knowing, yes, we're going to play this? Or was it all like, spur of the moment, we see Hanamura, we're going to pick Sim TP?
Um, so just for me, it was I obviously wanted to do anything with Lucio, so anything fast is kind of my speed. Um, and so I know we wanted to definitely try more of a double bubble or brawl style, which is what we kind of did. The ball diva was something we kind of pulled out of the back pocket, um, and it was something we talked about for a minute, but we were unsure how it was going to go. But it worked out, and it was really fun.
Absolutely. I mean, it was an amazing experience to get able to watch the Ball Diva kind of disruption style you had going on. And speaking of disruption, we did see your Lucio a lot on Hanamura. And I was kind of curious, did you draw your inspiration for how you play Lucio from like a YouTuber, Twitch streamer, Twitter user, kind of maybe named Frogger or anything like that?
Frogger is someone who definitely I've learned from just like watching him play. Great guy. I've met him at BlizzCon. But I definitely took the since it was 6v6, wanted to kind of be a little more aggro since there isn't our tank. Got to put a little bit more pressure. But yeah, I mean, just a lot of try to disrupt as much as I could. Really make them look at me, distract them. Just kind of my play style.
For sure. That disruption, I think, was so vital, allowing everybody to have their own agency and getting to see Lucio be able to go that far into backlines and just kind of do their own thing was super cool to watch because it showed you guys all trusted each other, your comms were good, and it was very fun to watch. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It was I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's took a long time to practice Lucio.
It took a long time to finally get that second tank player back as well, right? 6v6
It did.
experiment is kind of a big deal. It's something that a lot of players have really been looking forward to. As I understand it, it's actually brought some players back out of the abyss of games like Marvel Rivals and Valorant. And so my question is going to end up being, without having you pick a side, right? 5v5, 6v6, what direction would you see Overwatch push itself in as it enters what 9 years of existence and isn't fading, but definitely isn't the same Overwatch we've always played, right? We captured some of the nostalgia today, but what really is the future of Overwatch as you see it?
That's a tough question, but to
Mhm.
me, I see it as since they did release Overwatch 2, I think it'd be pretty hard for them to go back to 6v6 because at
Mhm.
that point it would mean that why did they even make Overwatch 2? But I think that the bringing 6v6 back for a little bit, or just kind of keeping it as like maybe a custom game mode, was great. I think it'd be hard for new players that are just picking up the game to kind of grasp 6v6 with all the chaos already.
Yeah.
5v5, people in, that are new in 5v5 even still are like, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. So you also want to be, user friendly. So I can see both sides of the story for one, nostalgia, and like the game how it's supposed to be played versus like new players.
Yeah, fair enough. Aaron Keller gets paid the big bucks to make those big decisions, and at the end of the day, we're just here to play the game and hopefully have as much fun as we can. I hope you got to have a lot of fun today, as well as the rest of both of our teams and all of our players. Before we let you go, you have the floor, Sabretooth, and you can use it to elevate any teammates, shout out any family or friends watching, or should give a shout out to maybe a staff member of the team.
Absolutely. Just shout out to my whole team. Budget, Tube, DR, or DQ, Ard, Hawk, Melly, my coach, Rodent Rebel, um, just everyone who's always like just helped our team, and everyone for setting it up. Permiba for helping manage everything. So thanks to my amazing team for always giving their best performance and being a great team to play with.
Heartwarming words. Well, thank you for sharing them, Sabretooth, as well as all of your thoughts here in this post-game interview. And go hang out with the team. Enjoy the win off of this very brief exhibition showcase, and go enjoy 6v6 while it lasts.
Thank you so much. Have a great night, guys.
Have a good night. That was Sabretooth of Paradise Aegis, and Jay, that's also all the show that we've got for today.
It is, and what a show it was, right? We got to see walk down memory lane, see all these old comps come back to life, and kind of see how it meshes with the new Overwatch 2 characters and environment, and kind of the design philosophy behind a lot of the new characters. And I was absolutely ecstatic to be able to have this opportunity to come and cast this event.
Yeah, Hyperion is it's been around for a little while, and I know that these show matches and exhibitions, especially of the talent, those especially that are veteran, are always looking forward to. And so for both teams and all of the competitors this evening, thank you guys so much for being able to come together, collaborate to make things happen. It's been a while since we've seen you guys, and from all of us here in the booth, that is us casting, and Oakley producing. We've missed you guys, and definitely make sure that you guys are following the Twitch channel. Head over to Twitter, or X, I think now as it's called, Hyperion Co, so that you guys can stay updated. It's not as if we're gonna have endless shows and big tournaments, but that doesn't mean that there isn't the chance for a spark every once in a while to set ablaze a night of exhibition fun. So make sure to stay updated. Although hopefully you guys really enjoyed joining us again for this very brief very brief match. Jay, if that's everything that we've got, I'll let you share any closing words, and we'll go from there.
Obviously, thank you for the opportunity to be able to cast this. It was an amazing event, and I hope you guys all had fun and were as entertained, or had these. If you've never experienced Overwatch 1, I do recommend going to play 6v6 because it is super fun. The limited amounts I have played have been like, wow, this is what the game used to be, right? And so I hope you all had a good night. Hope this was entertaining, and stay safe.